It was an image that shocked the world and showed the real and graphic horror of the Iraq War. Turned into an horrific human fireball after a deadly petrol bomb attack, Karl Hinett suffered 37% burns. He spent a staggering 100 hours on the operating table, undergoing 16 painful operations. The doctors gave this brave 18-year-old soldier very little chance of surviving, but he did survive, and this incredible war hero has gone on to become an inspiration to hundreds of people, raising thousands of pounds for charity. It's my pleasure to welcome Karl Hinett to Life Stories. Well, 10 years ago, as a teenager, you joined the army. And then some years later, after you'd received these horrendous injuries in Iraq, you said something which I find actually very moving. You said, "I wouldn't change a thing, even the injury. It opened my eyes. I realized that life is fragile. It's given me an inspiration and encouragement for the rest of my life." Now, that's a very powerful statement. Were you always very grounded like that as a youngster growing up?
I feel so, yes. I was very lucky to be raised really well, and yeah, I was just always brought up to have a bit of respect for the world, for the people around me, and yeah, not to overdo it for yourself.
And Karl, do you come from a military family?
Not particularly. My grandmother was in the military, and I did take a bit of inspiration from her stories and how she travelled the world and made endless friends, and that was the encouragement that I sought.
So you grew up in Tipton. Tell us about your childhood. I mean, were you a boy that was always seeking adventure?
Yeah, whenever I could go outside, it was always playing in the dirt or climbing up trees, and yeah, just being outside, using your hands and being able to run and climb and jump around. It was amazing being a child.
And you played sport?
I did. I mean, I was never very good at any sports, but it didn't stop me from playing.
So at what point, can you remember any shift in your thinking, or did you ever, as a boy, think about joining the army? At what point did you have that sort of inkling that you wanted to become a soldier?
Well, like I say, with listening to my grandmother's stories and then leaving school and getting a bit of a taste for work in a factory, and realised that there really was more to life than just this work where I was doing at the time.
Oh, I didn't know that. So you didn't go straight from school to the army. You worked in a factory.
Yeah, I worked in a glass factory, manufacturing double glazing windows for a time, which was great. You know, having money as a child and still living with parents, no overheads or anything. It was great, but there was definitely more to life than just this little bubble where I built up for myself.
So what was that? Was that a desire to see the world, or did you want to do something constructive, or a bit of both?
So a big part of it was wanting to see the world. Another part of it was wanting to challenge myself to see how far I could push myself. And another part is that I actually wanted to help people as well.
Can you remember the day when you actually said, right, I am going to go and sign on to be a soldier, sign up to be a soldier?
I do. I travelled to Wolverhampton with my grandmother. The same, she signed up in Wolverhampton also. And yeah, I went into the office, and my grandmother, as she was very particular about safety and bullying and all that. But no, it was great. It was great to get all the information, get my name down. It was exciting.
So obviously your grandmother was having a lot of influence over you. I mean, did she ever give you a sort of, the good things about joining the army are likely to be this and the bad things are that? I mean, did she give you a good and bad scenario?
Yeah, she was very black and white about the situation. She said the great times were great, but the bad times really are bad. And you know, it wasn't a walk in the park joining the military, but that just, you know, encouraged me and inspired me more because she was telling me truthfully.
So you, at that point, you were 17?
17, yeah.
Okay. So you join up. Tell us about the training. Where did you go for training?
Training was was great. It was up north in Catterick, in Yorkshire, and yeah, it was a completely different lifestyle to what I'd, grown up with. But it was it was very hands-on, very constant, and a lot more involvement with other people, a lot more teamwork, and a lot more just generally living amongst tens of people.
And how did you find the discipline?
Discipline was quite hard, but like I mentioned previously, I always been brought up with manners and respect, so I knew the best times when to keep my mouth shut and when to open it up.
Did you ever get into any trouble?
No, not unless everyone else was in trouble. Then everyone would get in trouble. But no, I did just keep my head down, worked hard, and yeah, and I got a lot of enjoyment out of it.
And that was fulfilling, obviously, one part that you wanted to be part of a team and helping people, and you were looking ahead to whatever challenges the army threw to you.
Yep.
So then the news comes that you're going out to Iraq.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know what you would be doing out there?
Yes. So I mean, from the day I joined, up, they were very clear as well about the chances of going to Iraq, which they said were very high. And so from the beginning, I always had a bit of excitement about going out to Iraq, because this was what I joined the army for, to see the world and help people. So in the build-up to Iraq, we did a lot of specific training. In particular, I was trained to operate weapon systems in warrior tanks. Well, they look like tanks. They're armoured fighting vehicles, and we did lots of group training as a regiment, so we could perfect our drills for almost any situation which could happen out there.
You arrive in Basra. What was that like? Was it a complete culture shock?
It was. Growing up around Tipton, Black Country, and the Midlands, I mean, it's actually quite sheltered. We have a house over our head and food on our tables, but going out there and seeing the lives of people out there, it really made you appreciate what you had got, and not how much we actually took for advantage.
Before you've been on holidays to Spain or France, and this was a much further, different culture, and it really opened your eyes. But tell us about your daily routine. Once you got acclimatised, what was your daily routine?
So we spent a few weeks acclimatising out in the desert first, 'cause that was a big shock, the heat difference, and when we did settle into a routine, we was situated in the heart of Basra city, and our daily routine would involve patrolling the streets, building up a relationship with the people around, and guarding the camp, and another part was to be on call for any situation if they needed a quick response. Well,
that leads us to the day in October 2005, and you were called to a riot that was developing.
Mm-hmm.
What happened?
So we did get a call, and so our commander was giving us the information, and there was quite a riot forming, but there were 2 soldiers what had been taken hostage. So we went to provide support for the soldiers on the ground at the actual situation. And so yeah, we went in our warriors to provide support, to give presents, and the riot just sort of grew, and it grew. They got more confident, got a lot more angrier, and that did eventually lead up to my injury.
Tell us about that moment. A petrol bomb came into the tank. Did you know about that? Did you see it come in?
So at the time, I didn't see it coming at all. The crowd was right up to our tanks. There were just so many, and yeah, it did just hit me out of nowhere.
So all in a frenzy, people surrounding the warrior.
Mm-hmm.
You were inside.
Mm-hmm.
you at some point you're aware that this petrol bomb has come in, and then wow, you know, you're on fire.
Yeah, it was a massive stench of petrol. Split second later, up in flames, and yeah, that's when just everything had just stopped, and it was just panic. There was no human movement about me. It was just...
Karl, that we've all seen that iconic picture of your crew getting out. Karl, we'll take a pause just for a couple of minutes and resume your story after the break.
Thank you.
Welcome back. I'm talking to Karl Hinett, who suffered horrendous burns when he was turned into a human fireball in the Iraq War. So before the break, you described the situation that you were in, this demonstration. It had got out of hand, it was getting worse. You were aware that this, whatever it was, this object came in, and it turned out to be a petrol bomb, and you and your crew were in a terrible, terrible situation. You were turned into a human fireball, but what do you remember of that incident?
So after the initial panic and just loss of all self-control, I realised that I needed to get a grip of myself, and if I didn't move and get out, then my life would have been over then. So it's why my hands were so badly damaged, was the gripping onto the burning metal to heave and pull myself up out of the turret and out into the open. And so it was after that extremely painful moment, those 15-20 seconds of pulling myself out, burning, did I get on top of the Warrior. I momentarily blacked out, rolled onto the ground, but very luckily, as I woke back up, my colleagues were there with fire extinguishers, and they doused the flames and dragged me back into safety.
Were the crowd milling around? I mean, or you probably weren't aware of it, but were you told afterwards what the crowd were doing at this time?
The crowd was pretty close. They were about, but like I said, luckily my colleagues were there. They secured me quite quickly, and yeah, they picked me up, and there was an ambulance further back from the scene in safety, and they transported me there very, very quickly.
Do you remember this, or are you going on what you were told by your colleagues?
No, I remember every single minute of it. Right up until getting airlifted to a hospital farther out in the desert, a military-run hospital, getting placed onto an operating table, and then being put to sleep.
So, obviously, at that point, you're still in Iraq. You're induced into a sleeping condition, and then, as you now know, you were airlifted back to Birmingham, to Selly Oak. What's your first memory of being in Selly Oak?
So memory upon waking up was quite hazy. It was, I later learned that it was 10 days in total that I was induced for. And so I remember the initial few days of waking up. I remember seeing all the important faces of close family members and friends there, and just the reassuring helping hands of the hospital staff.
Birmingham has got an incredible reputation for dealing with severe burns. Now, we now know that you had what is described as 37% burns. But tell us what that means. I mean, how is it calculated?
So I later learned that the average way of working out a percentage of your body is the size of the palm of your hand works out to 1%. So effectively, putting the palm of your hand across your body and working out to 37%, that's what I'd received. So face, arms, stomach and legs.
May I ask you where the worst affected areas of your body?
Yeah, so like I said, the hands got quite bad because
Yes,
of
touching the metal.
gripping on, and sort of under my arms where the fire was quite enclosed and quite intense, so it burnt quite rapidly under my arms. So effectively, my hands and arms were the worst.
So you had how many operations? 16 operations in total
In total, yes.
over 5 years.
Yes, spread out over 5 years.
Enduring pain at various stages and at various levels of pain while
Yes.
this period was when you were being well treated by the team at the burns unit. But you were coming home and going back into hospital for the operations?
Yes, there was a cycle. I did spend initially 3 months in hospital, and then I'd go to Headley Court, the military rehab centre, to sort of get my fitness levels back up, get back into modern day life, and then rest at home. And it was just that sort of painful cycle.
So did you meet commanders and people and officers and colleagues from the army? Did they come and see you? Was there much interaction with your former colleagues?
Yes, because at the time in Iraq we was very close to coming home because we'd almost finished our tour of duty, and when my regiment actually did come back, my entire platoon came and visited me in my hospital bed.
That must have been a very emotional moment.
It was great to see them all. You know, these were people I'd spent the past 5.5 months, you know, side by side, living in quite bad conditions, and really they were my brothers.
I mean, I find this incredible. I mean, that quote I mentioned at the beginning of the programme, where it says that you don't regret anything, even your injury. And you really feel that. I mean, that's a tremendous thing to be able to say after you've been through all that.
Yes, well, it was effectively a really bad day at the office, so to say.
Yeah.
But it's what's come afterwards. You know, the opportunities, the chances, the people I've met. That's what makes me not regret.
Well, let's move on to that. In fact, first though, you've got nothing but praise, I know, for the men and women at the Birmingham Hospital, Worseley Oak and the QE and the burns unit. Just want to make a comment about that.
Yeah, they were amazing. You could tell how overworked they were, but they still took the time to make sure that I was completely settled and sorted, and you could see how rushed off the feet they were, but they still made so much of an effort all the time, and it was inspiring in itself just to watch them work.
Well, inspiring, but let's get on to that, because now they say that you're inspiring because you're, in effect, working for them, supporting them. You've run the most amazing number of marathons. How many?
Last weekend was 136.
Last weekend in Barcelona.
Barcelona, yes.
But you've been to many other fantastic places, haven't you? From the north to the south poles. Give us a couple of places that you were really, found really wonderful to visit.
So, like you said, the north and south poles. The north poles ran on the frozen Arctic Ocean, so it was literally running on ice. South Pole, you know, completely lack of any life at all. Was so far inland on Antarctica, so alien but so beautiful. And the Amazon jungle in Brazil, you know, wildlife everywhere. It's places I would never have imagined seeing, and if I didn't take up running and wasn't inspired.
Well, you really, really are seeing the world, aren't you? Including some time with Prince Harry.
Yes, so that was when I was involved with Walking with the Wounded, and we did a lot of mountaineering. We attempted to climb Mount Everest, and it was